All right. Can you guys hear me? So apparently I have been talking with my mic off. So let me
Okay, I was wondering what was going on.
Okay, yeah, you know, Twitter does what it does, but let me just start over. I just want to welcome everyone back to Advocacy Arena's weekly live chat, where we gather to inform and inspire civic engagement each Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time. And we just want to thank you for continuing to join us to participate and amplify this initiative that we have each week. I am very excited to let you all know that today we will be joined by a special guest that we've had here before, but Lauren Ashley from Texas is going to be joining us around the half hour mark. So please share, retweet the space because it is recorded. And I know this is in the middle of the workday, so a lot of people can't actively participate. And this allows for them to at least hear the great information and conversation that we have here each week. So without further ado, I want to give my fabulous co-host an opportunity to say hello, and then we'll get the conversation started. And we already have some great speakers here on the stage, and I'm excited to get our conversation started today. So, Soul Sister, how are you today, my dear?
I am doing well. Thank you so much. And happy to be here this Monday in Advocacy Arena. It's been an eventful morning. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to co-host. I was like, okay, whatever. It's going to be what it's going to be, but I'm not going to be quiet. That's one thing for sure. So, glad to be here. Absolutely glad to be here. I did want to very quickly highlight, even though she deserves, as much applause and accolades as possible, I just want to quickly highlight Dr. Dorothy Height. Now, I first learned of Dr. Dorothy Height when I was working with the UAW. Yeah, and I know that that's pretty sad. It's not that I haven't learned of her before, but I really got a greater understanding of who she was as a civil rights leader. Other than that, I think she had just been one of the, a little blip in my understanding of American history and the civil rights movement. But I got to know more about her because of her work with the Center for Racial Justice, which the UAW would often send not just leadership, but also rank and file members would also send and encourage members to attend seminars and classes at the Center for Racial Justice. So it seems appropriate due to the union connection to make sure that we give her honor, but also by it being National Social Workers Month as well as Women History Month, I thought, this is perfect time for us to just highlight some of her accomplishments. And she was born on March 24th, sorry, 1912 in Richmond, Virginia. And she should be honored and remembered for her role in American history. Height earned an academic scholarship to Barnard College, but couldn't attend because of segregation laws. And so she instead attended New York University and received a bachelor's in education and a master's in psychology. And her first job was as a social worker in Harlem. Her leadership was recognized early on by the Young Women's Christian Association, so the YWCA for those who like the acronyms. And during her tenure, she pushed for integration nationwide of YWCA programs and facilities. It was also there that she established the Center for Racial Justice in 1965, and she ran the program until 1977. Not long after, Dorothy Height met and joined forces with another powerhouse, Mary McLeod Bethune, and began working with the National Council of Negro Women. In 1957, she focused her fight on ending the lynchings of Black Americans and restructuring the criminal justice system. Voter registration was a big deal for her, and financial aid to civil rights activists. And she served the NCNW for 40 years as president, and then even sat on the board after she retired from that position. Her commitment to civil rights was widely recognized and very powerful. Eleanor Roosevelt Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, and Lyndon B. Johnson often sought her advice on politics and organizing. And in 1963, Heights spoke at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, even though she was not invited there and was the only woman to do so. And she didn't limit her fight for freedoms of Black men and women to just the U.S. or the education of the matters. She also served as a visiting professor at the University of Delhi in India as part of the Black Women's Federation of South Africa. She received the Citizen Medal Award in 1989, and later in 2004, she received the Congressional Gold Medal. In 2004, she was also inducted into the Democracy Hall of Fame International, and throughout her lifetime, she received an estimated of 24 honorary degrees. In 1971, she also helped fund the National Women's Political Caucus with Shirley Chisholm, Gloria Steinem, and Betty Friedan. She died in 2010 at the age of 98. And I know that that was very quick and very annotated. I will be putting some articles up for you to delve into it a little bit more and give you a better understanding of who she was as a person and how beloved she was and why she should be honored. I also wanted to talk to you about the Teamsters president, Sean O'Brien. He says that this year's presidential endorsement is going to be its toughest and most important one yet and cannot be rushed. So we shouldn't be looking for any endorsement from this union until after the Republican and Democratic conventions. So they did things a little differently this year with having candidates actually in their building and having participation from rank and file membership throughout the process. So they should be applauded for that, definitely. And even though O'Brien himself admits that President Biden has been a strong supporter for unions, including the president's appointments to the National Labor Relations Board and emergency help to pension funds, it's not a given that the endorsement will go to him. Some key points the Teamsters want to see out of the next administration includes fighting against the national right to work laws, supporting bankruptcy law reforms, and all other issues which Republicans are clearly not in support of. So we shall see how it turns out. We already know who the best candidate for unions and working class people is. So I hope that the Teamsters also see it the same way. And the next thing I want to say is I have to issue an apology to our friends and family here at Advocacy Arena. I have very much said that Rashida Tlaib could not be challenged. She couldn't be primaried. And I guess I have been mistaken. Michigan has a strong contender in Royce Kennebrew. He has filed his paperwork and officially announced, and we hope to see him in this space very soon. His website will be launching this week. Last week, he posted his announcement video, and people are still just finding out that there is a challenger even for Michigan's Congressional District 12. And so I want everyone to please, delve into his timeline. He's on Facebook, he's on Instagram, he's on YouTube. Find out about. I of course support him. I've known him since his days at the Museum of African American History, and he's just a phenomenal person. He's always been a teacher. That is the capacity that I met him in when he worked at the museum. While I was working at Ford prior to me joining the UAW's fight for social justice, and he's an impressive young man. Well, young, I say that because we're all young in heart, right? But yes, he is younger. So, which means he has got plenty of time to serve this country and definitely Michigan. And I think that he's a worthy candidate for us all to stand behind and support in whatever capacity that we can. I just really want to point out that the district that Michigan's District 12 is 46.9% Black. And it was created to make sure that the district had Black representation. Now, of course, Rashida Tlaib was. Uh, she did win against a candidate in the previous primary in election. It wasn't as strong of a candidate as we have in Royce Kennebrew, who is homegrown and been out there fighting and lecturing and teaching for others, not just the school districts, not just on the parental level, not just on the local or state level of administration about the importance of DEI, but he has also very much been a national sensation for many government agencies where he's done plenty of presentations and lectures as well. So I just want you to check him out, and there will be more information to follow. He's got a very broad and strong campaign for small business owners, LGBTQIA equity, climate change, education, and many other matters that we all care about, as well as the citizens of Michigan care about as well. So just keep your eyes peeled and check them out. I'll post some things in the nest for you guys all to ponder over. And I'm excited about it, and I hope you guys will be too. All right. I'm sorry for going on, but I just wanted to get those things out before we got started.
Absolutely, because yeah, I want to kind of get to our guest and stuff before Lauren comes in. I don't know how long she'll have with us, but we're just so excited that she will be joining us around the half hour mark of our discussion here today. So we're very excited to hear about her and the progress of her campaign. And this week, I may get a chance. I don't know. Depends on how the conversation goes, but I'm kind of focusing on Myrlie Evers as my Woman History Month person for this week because she was indeed a trailblazer. And she now there is a book that Joy Reid has written that's getting a lot of accolades as well it should. And it's called Medgar Evers and the Love Story That Awakened America. And this lady was truly a trailblazer, and it's been said by people like Coretta Scott King and many others, because of course they were on the forefront of the civil rights fight during the 60s, but she was the first one to actually lose her husband, and there were no guides as to how to navigate that. And unfortunately, she wouldn't be the last, but she set the standard, and she did a very good job. And she did so many awesome things. She was part of the and a very important part of the NAACP. She ran for a Senate seat. Just many things that I hope to be able to share. But like I said, want to kind of keep things moving. I have a lot of items on the agenda that maybe we'll get around to discussing. We know that a decision has been made in the case that was going on in Georgia, so Fani can still take care of that case. Of course, Wade had to resign, and he did, because Lauren is motivated to run because of her advocacy around education. That's an area of passion of mine. So I have some stories that I kind of want to highlight. I've talked about it a little bit before. The TSU takeover, the board takeover that's going on here. Um, I'm sure that many of you heard about the Republicans in Kansas beating an effigy of the president, and they were called out by people on both sides of the aisle, as well they should be. The former guy is having trouble securing funds to post his bond for his cases in New York. He's also in the middle of a merger for his Truth Social platform, and that too, like most things around him, is mired in some controversy. And he's in the middle of a lawsuit because he's devaluing the stock for his co-founders. We also have a lot of articles, talks, and things going on around reproductive health care. IVF, of course, is in the forefront, and the Republicans are kind of in a kerfuffle because they're for that, but they don't want abortion. So I want us to keep our eyes on that. SCOTUS is actually hearing a case today around the government's desire to have some regulation around disinformation and misinformation in social media and, of course, TikTok. They have a bill going through on that. So, just a lot of things. And then, of course, the former vice president coming out and saying that he wouldn't support the former guy. However, to me, he didn't go far enough because at this point, where we are in our history, because this isn't a normal election. This isn't just an election between the red team and the blue team, the Republicans and the Democrats. This truly is an election about democracy versus autocracy. And what I find interesting is on the former guy's stump speech, he's starting to co-opt some of our language, but projecting it, kind of twisting it around, talking about it'll be the last election because Democrats are putting democracy in danger, and all kinds of absurdities that people who understand and know what's going on can clearly see. But unfortunately, his base, who are really baked into him and his agenda, may not get it. So I found that very interesting too. But like I said, just some highlights. I put the Jumbotron is already filled with things. So grab those things that you see up there. I'll be adding more. But without further ado, I want to get to a few of our speakers before Lauren comes in. And again, like I said, I don't know how long she's going to be able to stay. So first up, we have EC the Third. So glad you joined us today. And then up next will be T-Bug and Joseph. So good afternoon. How are you today, sir?
Oh, I'm beautiful. Everything is great. Everything is great down here in Alabama. I gotta say, my speaker or the person I like to highlight for Women's History Month is Dorothy I. Height. In 1944, she had a struggle for freedom, and she was told to get into the back of the bus at a Virginia Greyhound bus station. She refused. The case, two police officers came on to encourage her to move to the back. She refused. She tore up the summons that they gave her, threw it out the window, and got into an altercation with those two police officers. As a result of that, of course, she was arrested. It wasn't nonviolent. She was charged with assault. She pled guilty to that, but she fought the segregation charge. And eventually that case, 2 years later, it went to the Supreme Court. And under Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund in 1946, segregation on interstate travel became illegal in Morgan versus Virginia. So she doesn't get a lot of credit, but she changed the world. And eventually it was actually enforced, but it took years for it to be enforced. But Irene Morgan. And also we talked about Mary McLeod Bethune, and we talked about Dorothy I. Height. I was able to actually meet Dorothy I. Height when I was on an internship in DC, and I wasn't sophisticated enough to ask her a great question, but I was able to take a picture of her. And Mary McLeod Bethune, just her contributions are amazing. Bethune-Cookman College, and really what she did for educating everybody, because there was a point, even at schools like mine, Talladega, where you were discriminated against if you didn't look a certain way. And she really did a lot to make sure that everybody got a proper education.
Well, that is awesome. And I so appreciate you bringing us these wonderful historical stories and highlighting these wonderful women and their contribution to our history and how they changed life for us and for the country. So, thank you so very much for bringing that to the forefront today. And thanks for joining us. And so up next, we've got T-Bug and then Joseph.
Good morning, everyone, and Dee and Soul Sister. Hope everyone's having a good Monday.
We are indeed.
Yay. Okay, so I'm just going to try and get a tweet up into the Jumbotron or Nest. I can never remember what the name is. I came to talk about our race in Oregon for District 5. Um, we have a situation where we have two Democrats that are running against an incumbent Republican, Lori Chavez DeRemer. And some of you that follow me have supported me on kind of trolling her, inspired by Joseph, what he's been doing in Arizona and California races. But yeah, I've been trying to stay neutral on this race. It's not my congressional district. I'm in District 1, District 5. Though on my regional Oregon account, I do promote both candidates because I focus on just promoting all Democrats so people can make informed decisions when they do vote. So we have a primary coming up in May to decide which Democrat will challenge Lori Chavez DeRemer for that district, which is a mixture of rural and suburban electorate. There are technically there's two Democratic candidates running for this position. One of them is Jamie McLeod Skinner, who's a rural progressive candidate attorney who has strong support of local county precinct committee persons in her district. And she does have some state and local politicians endorsing her. She's had a past endorsement of Elizabeth Warren and progressive organizations. She's has experience as a city councilor from 2004 to 2012. In 2020, she ran for Secretary of State and lost. And then in 2018, she ran for a state Senate position and lost to the incumbent Republican. She made a lot of news in 2022. During the Democratic primary, she challenged the incumbent Democrat Kurt Schrader, who was considered kind of a dino in the pocket of pharma, though he was endorsed by Biden, Pelosi, the DCCC. Jamie had the support of the county parties in her district who broke with the party and endorsed her during the primary over Schrader. Jamie won the primary easily, and after that point, she got the full backing of the DCCC, but she did lose to Lori Chavez DeRemer, who's a MAGA Republican who just pretends to be a moderate, but we know what she's all about. And the other thing that I need to state about Jamie is she believes that she has enough support with the polls to win the primary and the general election and prides herself in not taking PAC money. There are some problems with her past and allegations in the local newspapers. They've stated that she has mistreated coworkers, she was fired as a city manager in a small town in Oregon with allegations of creating a hostile work environment. She's also had complaints from campaign workers spanning 3 campaigns in Oregon. She denies all the allegations. She does have people who have come forward to speak and support her. If she won the race this year, she would be the first open lesbian member of Congress for Oregon. She has full support of the county parties. She's their darling, and the Clackamas County Democrats just endorsed her, which, as a precinct committee person, I don't agree that they should do that. I think that they should wait for the primary and let the voters decide and just host candidate forums instead so people can make really informed decisions. That's just my 2 cents. I was feeling neutral, but I'm feeling like Janelle Bynum is the best candidate for this job. She is a Democratic state House representative and business owner who's worked in the past as an engineer. I just saw an interview last night where she talked about her daughter was going to Spelman College, was subject to bomb threats, and she's also had people report her as a suspicious person while canvassing in Oregon, which, it's very white and very racist. Unfortunately here. But on a positive note, she has the endorsements of multiple Oregon congressional representatives, including my own, very progressive, very liberal representatives, and the Congressional Black Caucus. She has been endorsed by 3 Oregon governors, including our current governor, and she recently received the DCCC endorsement, placing her on the red to blue list, which those are I think the 17 flippable seats to turn the House back blue. And she received an endorsement from Emily's List. Another great note about her is she has beat Lori Chavez DeRemer in the past 2 times. If she was elected, she would be Oregon's first Black member of Congress, and she's the only candidate that has beat Lori Chavez DeRemer twice. The reason I just wanted to speak out about it is I think she has a disadvantage with the parties are very the local parties are very clear that they will support Jamie no matter what, and I feel like if we can get some name recognition out for her, that would be great. I don't think it's fair the way things are going, and so I just felt like I had to speak out and speak up. And even though it's not my race, I want to get off the fence and start doing what I can to get her name out there. So that's all I got so far.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I think it's important that we have people from, these communities who can speak to the races in those communities, because oftentimes we get news stories, but we don't get the nuances that are involved. So thank you so very much
Oh, yeah.
for coming and speaking to that. And I do see Lauren in the house, so happy to have her here. And I've sent out the invite, so Lauren, whenever you're ready, folks are waiting for you and very excited. Just grab the mic and come on up. With that, I'm going to go to Joseph, and then we'll just continue the conversation and add Lauren in so that she can give us some updates on her campaign. It looks like it's going fabulously. I'm so proud and excited for her and about it. So, okay, she's here on the stage. So everyone was aware that you were coming. So we're going to stick a pin in the queue and just say hello, welcome home, and just tell us what's going on. How are things going, and what can we do, and how can we help you, Lauren?
Oh, so thanks for having me on. And I'm sorry I have been away from home so long, family. It has been kind of a roller coaster these past couple of months. But we're hanging in there and fighting strong. We almost pulled it off last Tuesday night, or maybe two Tuesday nights. Time is weird now for me. But we got so close. We didn't get to 50 plus one, but we were at 49.5, which is an amazing showing for a first time candidate running against an incumbent who's been in office since 2017. And I know that, all the various forms for, especially from people, in my family here, my Advocacy Arena fam, donations and any volunteering, that had happened was really integral in helping us get to that place. And so we're going to do it all over again. May 28th is election day for the runoff. Early voting is May 20th and 24th, but we are right back in the saddle. We started canvassing again this over the weekend. We're phone banking again. Doing the work that we need to do to reach as many voters as possible, and have it even more decisive, and raising money, doing all of those things. And so it's been really amazing. It's been like I said, a whirlwind of a race. I've picked up amazing endorsed. A lot of them are local, but U.S. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett endorsed my campaign, which was just amazing. So at this point, I have elected officials from the city all the way up to the federal who have endorsed our campaign over the current incumbent. Even 5 of our current colleagues at this point, 5 state representatives have endorsed my campaign, and so I think it really just speaks to the of work that we're doing, here to move folks. We also got the Houston Chronicle endorsement, which is our major newspaper in the city, and everybody knows it's kind of a unspoken rule that they really do like and prefer incumbents. And so to be able to pull that off, I think really it was really amazing. I didn't go in there with the defeats, didn't expect that we would editorial, and it's shaken out to be a pretty tough race. Person who does not want to gotten, not from our end nasty, but very nasty from the other side, just with the mail and some of the texts that have been sent out about things about my past. And so that was a little disappointing, but it also let me know that a viable candidate, so much so that she wanted to go as low as possible, push people in the other direction, and it clearly didn't work. But it, like I said, it was very ironic, but for politics is. But again, very excited to be in the position that we're in. Being the top vote getter in a primary has, I think, pushed even more support our way, and has opened a lot of eyes for people who are kind of watching, thinking that who is this person, kind of this organizer off the street, who thinks she's gonna like take on this incumbent, and now an attitude. And so I'm really excited. But thanks for having me back on. Yeah, I would love to have y'all support in this runoff. So I know most of y'all are probably not local to Texas or Houston, but we have virtual phone banks every week that people can join. If you're able to make a contribution financially, that would be extremely helpful. And I'm great. Any support and prayers and virtual hugs that you give, because those carry me through in May. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And again, if you can post some links, you can, DM them to me, or if they're on your timeline, just let us know so that we can connect and help you, because a lot of people in this community do a lot of work around helping people. Good candidates like yourself that are, they can't actually vote for, but they can certainly contribute to and assist in the text banking and phone banking. So we want to make sure that folks know how and where to do that. So if you will do that, and if anyone has any questions for Lauren, please request the mic. I'm not sure how long you have to be here, but I'm just sure I know that campaigning is hard work. And I have just been just blown away by the work that you and your campaign have done, and by the endorsements that you have received, which speaks to the work that you are doing, and it speaks to you and your advocacy, because we all know, like when you came in here, you came just as an advocate for education, and an activist in your community. And look at you now. And I see you in that seat. I am believing and trusting that you will win. And we just want to do everything we can to push you over the finish line.
Absolutely. And again, I just have to, express my gratitude. Because, at the time when my very first time kind of meeting with y'all and speaking, running for office was one of the furthest things from my mind. I just never imagined myself. Even today, I'm like, man, I'm really doing it. But I remember just all of the encouraging words and love and support even then. And people were like saying, you should run for something. And I remember that, and I took that into account when I made this like extremely difficult, hard, to run. But I'm excited, about this opportunity, mainly because, after Tuesday night, we saw, kind of what we had always predicted is that we're going to go back to a very different legislature in 2025. A lot of the moderate Republicans, especially pro education, type voucher, either did not run for reelection or lost primary races. And the current Speaker of the House, who is, he's not a liberal or even really a moderate Republican by any means, but he came in second in his primary race and is now in a runoff. And so it's very scary, as much as I'm excited about it. But I had another legislator who's currently in office, and he said, look, are you ready to come up here and fight? Because it's going to be a dogfight when you get here in 2025, because the governor and the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general were very invested in making sure that people that were going to vote their way on vouchers specifically were elected. And, these are some of the, if you understand how our districts are built, they're gerrymandered to either be red or blue. And so Republicans have really painted themselves into a corner by trying to appeal to the most extreme wing of their party, and to the point where they are losing elections. And because there's no balance in the district, people want what they want, and they pick their voters, and other voters are picking, even more extreme candidates. And so we have a huge, huge undertaking, and I'm claiming victory, and I will be there. But it's going to be a big fight, and it's going to be a show, because the governor got $6 million from pro voucher, folks, and they want a return investment, and it's going to be tough. So as much as I'm looking forward to doing it, I know that we're going up against some heavy artillery when it comes to those vouchers that's behind.
You absolutely are. And like we're experiencing that here in Tennessee. So I know what you're saying, because they're trying to, like Texas, make it a statewide thing. And like Texas, many folks in the rural areas are not for it, even though they're Republicans. They don't want to see their public schools decimated. They understand what's at stake, and they're speaking out. But because, like Texas, we have a super red majority, and extremists who are defying democratic rules and principles to push their extreme agenda through. And this is where our fight for our democracy is, folks. It's at the state levels. Because even if we win a trifecta at the federal level, when we're in states like Lauren and mine, some of the policies that will be passed, the people in these states will not get to enjoy, because they have captured the legislature. They can stop and undo, and we need as many Democrats and kind of sane Republicans, if there are any left, and I do believe that there are out there, so that we can right this ship. So I just thank you for it, and your passion, and like I said, the endorsements and things that you have speaks to the work that you've done. And that's what it takes for all of us. Like, it's not easy. And I applaud your courage and your tenacity in this fight. And we need fighters and activists like you serving as policymakers, So I just want to give my co host an opportunity to chime in here.
I am so glad that, excuse me, that you were able to come in today. I've just been a big fangirl of yours since I first saw that viral video, and I am so happy that you were courageous enough to take up the mantle and run for something and make a difference. I do know that you have strong union activism in your background, which I cannot begin to tell you how much I appreciate. That's my thing, and we need more people that represent the ideas and the communities in which they live at a state and federal level, to make sure that those needs are being met. And that is something that I absolutely am certain that you will do. I'm excited about your campaign. I want you to succeed in any way, shape, and form that we can help you to do that. And thank you so much for taking the time out to come and see us here in the Advocacy Arena. And I'm so glad that we have been able to make you feel a sense of family here. But I know that we all believe in you and appreciate all that you're trying to do, and being vocal and putting the issues of the community and the country at the forefront of your campaign is just a phenomenal thing. Your voice is just necessary, and I'm just claiming victory over it. So thank you so much for coming in here today. And I posted I saw you put it in the thread, but I posted your tweet up in the nest so that we're getting double exposure for it today. I'm sorry, but we just gonna keep pushing and pushing and pushing until that drop dead date. You said it's May 28th. Is that
May
what you
28th.
May
Yeah, May 28th
28th?
is election day. May 20th through the 24th is.
Okay, so we will just make sure here in Advocacy Arena that we keep reminding folks to continue to support you, whether they're in the state of Texas or outside of the state of Texas, and offer support in whatever ways and capacities that they can. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Lauren, can you tell us, as a candidate, a first time candidate, kind of describe your experience, like um, your outreach in this campaign, so that you never know who you might inspire to do that? Because I am on the advisory board of a PAC here, Blue Tennessee, and it's an effort to help ensure and provide support and encouragement for people to run everywhere, because it's important that we run everywhere and we fight everywhere, because as the vice president said, when we fight we win, and it's important that we fight everywhere. Can you kind of just tell people, like, just give us some stories and things about that process for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of coming into it, like I said, I think Annie's List is an organization that, supports women candidates. And I was attending one of their trainings, said, you ask a man one time, typically if they want to run for office, and before you can even finish your sentence and say what office, 9 times out of 10, they'll just go ahead and say yes. But for women who are considering it, it takes several asks. And I was definitely one of those people where it took a few different asks from different places, people that I worked with, people in our district, folks, and y'all, especially when that video blew up. And so I knew that it was going to be a huge undertaking. Even running popular candidates had their own kind of baggage. There's still a person in office, tons of mission being there, even if they don't district that they. And so I knew very early, really, really strong team that has won elections and flipped incumbents. And so for all of this, in a part-time, capacity, I'm co-director for friend's campaign, who is now our current city controller. And, so it had, kind of worked out in that way. We had conversations after I thought of, suggested, that I speak with the people on his campaign. And I was like, oh yeah, because they've done this for a long time. And if anybody, is going to talk me out of it, it'll be them, because they were probably honest. And that's not how that conversation went at all, and ended up being a part of my team. I'm lucky and blessed to be able to acquire somebody who has done this work for a time and who won. And so he was very frank with me on for help you every step of the way, but you are gonna have a hell of a time. Where the odds were stacked for, but I'm in the personal. I just have to kind of, as much as I know that you can take it, friends and family know that they're gonna have to like maintain closure as they watch you be attacked in this way. And pretty much, that's how it went. But what was very surprising is we knew that we were gonna have to make all these phone calls, and a lot of our time and raise money. Could not have just the outward that I got, but is going as far as receiving some of these like really support that I was most happy to receive, because I come from the world area AFL-CIO, state AFL-CIO, because it's always going to be hard to kind of come in an incumbent that organizations have endorsed before. And so I didn't walk into it with a sense of entitlement because I come from the union world. I have to endorsement. I have union siblings to under that. Not only am I one of them, but I also have a winnable campaign. We have the support to do it, and that really was a big key in helping us kind of get where we needed to be, because of work that came, right. And I've done it before. I've knocked the door. I've made the phone calls, and so I knew securing that would open the door for so many support, and it did. And it kind of it was slow at the beginning. Who wants to donate, a relatively unknown per incumbent, but things kind of all started weaving together. And we put a poll in the field pretty early on, because my consultant he's done this a really long time, and he wants to make sure to care about. And so based on that poll, we knew if we got our message out to as many voters as possible, that we could win. Heard my positives and heard my negatives, and heard her negatives and heard, her positives, that by the end of that, poll, they were, would vote for me. And so that was kind of our biggest uphill battle, getting to get that information out. And you saw it the way the votes came in. So like the early votes and the mail-in ballots, she, had beat me by about like 200. And then early voting came, and it was like a 20 vote gap. Election day, we picked up most of the votes. And because as time went on, you could kind of see, once our paid communication started rolling out and people information in front of them, that they may vote for me. And so it still surprises me even to this day that thousands of people went out and voted for me. I think I was like, if I'll probably get like 5 votes, right? Because I know like 5 people personally in the district. But to be able to get as many votes as pull ahead of a person office in 2017, I think it really coordinated work that was going on every level. Organizations that endured, jumping and help days of action, me reaching out to that had helped me get here and saying, hey, like I was raised, me, making a point, I'm not doors probably, daily, day in and day out for weeks, because I knew that our district again had traditionally just been underworked, and that people were really wanting to talk to somebody and wanting to hear from somebody who votes. And so as much as I could, do it, I didn't have a lot of time for anything else, and I missed so much. I was even dealing with a very close personal death. My mom's sister passed away. While I was campaigning, and I took time to kind of try to that and plan and be there for my family. I had to kind of get right back to it. And I was telling somebody, I was like, all of this is probably going to hit me May 29th, all that I've had to miss people that I've lost along the way. But I know that because my dad and because of what we're up in 25, we have one, election where we have to be really intentional about making sure that we hold the line, because we don't know what will happen. God forbid we have another Trump president and, democracy ends as we know it. But we know that Texas, people will call us about state, and I believe that to some extent, but what we really are any low turnout, and that we have the power to shift the tide. But it takes people like getting elected, getting in safe seats, and then doing work beyond that to get my district out, to vote in these races, in these very contentious races, and put good Democrats in office. And so part of what we were doing in too is reminding people that yes, Lauren Ashley Simmons absolutely vote, but there are a number of, Democrats in this primary who need your vote today, and then they're going to need your vote member. That Republic, that's biggest part, aside of trying to vote for me, is what we were doing in the field, is trying to expand the elect, get people excited excited and motivated and engaged because we have a huge problem here in Texas not turning out. And I'm not even talking about registering new voters. I'm talking about who are actually registered, who just don't pay for whatever. I know I'm kind of veering off track here, but what I would say to anybody considering or thinking about it, I knew early, based on a couple of the votes that, this person had taken that I supported, but it took me a really long time to just because I wanted somebody else to another viable candidate to run a campaign that I could support and go knock doors for. I didn't really want it to be, but when I didn't see that happening and then what was off state, I just said, okay, you know what, fine. It has to be me. But yeah, it was like I said, if you would have talked to me a year ago, I had so many other things. I was in law school, my daughter is young, but none of those you stand up for my.
Oh my goodness. And I just applaud you so much because you talked about, knocking doors and the importance of turnout. And that's one of the things that happens here because, gerrymandering hinders that a lot, but also, people just having that one on one contact with a candidate and knowing that that candidate is listening to them and is taking their concerns to heart and will be a fighter for them is so, so important. And it's one of the things that I'm very proud of being, like I said, part of an organization here that is working to help, candidates like yourself here in Tennessee, because, it's important that people have a choice. They deserve, a candidate to vote for. And in many places, some of these extreme Republicans run unopposed. I talk and tell people that here in 2022, we have 99 districts and 44 of them were unopposed. And that just shouldn't be. I mean, it is morally wrong for the people in those 44 districts not to even have a choice. But from an electoral standpoint, just having a Democrat on the ballot increases the vote share for the top of the ticket by 1.5%. And so it is important, that we have people like yourself running everywhere. And you just, I mean, like I said, you're just a shining example of what can happen when passionate people decide to put their hat in the ring. And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of tenacity. And like you described, experiencing a personal family loss, but you did what you needed to do for your family, but you got right back to the task at hand. And that takes, like I said, to me, that is just the example of a true patriot. And I feel like we have a lot of those people in this country, but sometimes they don't know or feel like they're supported, which is why I am so proud of this community here, because I think the people who are part of this community do understand that and they seek people like you to support, even though we're not in Texas. We have adopted your district because we understand how important it is. And I was just over the moon when I saw that Representative Jasmine Crockett was endorsing you, and that speaks to your your talents and
Speaks
your work,
volumes.
and for them to you said you have what, like five representatives that have actually supported you, and that's just something that they don't normally do. They generally support their incumbents, but that speaks volumes about you.
Yeah. The one thing I found really striking was your use of the word intention. I so appreciate you using that word because if there's any election that we have to be intentional, it is definitely this one. I'm so glad that you recognize it. I'm so glad that you say it and you say it with your whole chest. I mean, like you do not you don't dance around the issues or the severity of how important this election is. And even though knowing all of the challenges that you were going to face and have to stand against, you still stood. You still took that conviction and stood on principles. And I admire that. You are a true serious hero. Regardless of how any of it turns out, you what you've done has been exemplary, and your voice is so necessary and essential. And I just know that you're going to do great things. And I'm so glad that we were here to see it from the beginning. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And this being Women's History Month, again, honored that, you are here in this space, and this is the work that women have done and are doing. And it's so important. I thought that was a funny story that you told about how when men are asked, like, they don't even get the sentence completed first, and they're like, yeah, yeah, I'll do it, because a lot of that is ego driven, but that women kind of, they're more intentional in their thought, and decision around doing something so important. So what were some of the, when you knocked doors, because this wasn't your first time knocking doors for issues, what were some of the conversations like that you had with people? Because that is so important, like having those one-on-one conversations with people. Because what I have learned is that, like, I come from a county, a small town where they call themselves constitutional Republicans. They have really taken over my hometown. And what happens is this extremism is allowed to go through because they're unchallenged. So they just feel entitled to become even more extreme. But what I am learning is that when they are challenged, that they often, it forces them to be more transparent, and it forces more accountability on them. Can you just kind of describe some of the conversations that you had?
Yeah, and so the thing about, this being a Democratic primary, for the most part, we spoke to, pretty strong Democrats. I can't exactly remember the parameters to identify folks, but it was typically folks that had voted in like the last prime city elect, people who were just already kind of strong, and then we expanded it to some folks who, voted in the elections as well, because we tried to create as a bigger universe we could, that was like reasonable for us to be able to like contact. And so what we just found often is just a lot of people just were kind of wholly unaware of, one, who their current state rep was, two, that it was an election coming up. So it was a lot of just kind of like preliminary conversations about the process and what happens. And what we really wanted to drive home is the contrast between myself and the person who is currently in the seat, and make it in helping people understand that this is a very blue district. We're like 60 plus Biden, and that the person who's there now just does not really align with those values, and kind of you just pointing to those votes, but also kind of who is actually funding their campaign. And again, it was just a lot of kind of like just very very just preliminary conversations about like, well, this is who the rep is, and this is why I'm running against them, and and kind of explaining that. And I think it just kind of speaks to some other just concerns that I had about the way our district had just been represented and handled, because it was, as much as I, as a candidate, I was glad that a lot of these folks didn't have super strong feelings about the current rep, or a certain affinity for her. But also it just bothered me because it lets me know this is why we're having such a hard time with some of these statewide races, because people are just not aware of what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, this is a primary race, guys, and there's, the ballot was 63 pages long. There were a bunch of people running, a bunch of judges, and this is a gerrymandered district, so your only real time to make a choice is in the primary, because the next race in November, it's going to be a Republican. And for the most part, I'm pretty sure that you're not a swing voter. You really have an opportunity now to make a choice. And that's what we were really also pushing, for folks to get them to understand that these races are important, probably more so than any other aspect, because you don't really get a choice once this decision is made. And because of how this person was initially elected, it was by a small group of precinct chairs. And so in many ways, and that's not always a bad thing, because there's lots of folks who get elected that way and do the work to kind of pull the community in and garner that support. But if you really think about it, you really didn't get a choice then either. We went to sleep one night and we had one representative, and that person moved up and became a state senator to fill a vacancy. And then we had this new rep that, for the most part, we didn't really choose and have a part in. Now, of course, subsequently after that, we voted because we're good Democrats. And whether it's one person or 12 people on the ballot, some of us are going to go out of court. But, this was an opportunity to really make a choice. And we are giving you a real choice, between two different candidates, that in a lot of ways, in my mind and what I've seen, just in the field, that represent two very different, who just have two very different visions and represent some very different things, and are both obviously vying for your vote, but it's one who is me, who is working really, really hard for that vote and not trying to rest on, my laurels in any way. So I think, again, when people were presented with the contrast and presented with the choice, they made, the choice that most reflected their values once they had the information. And like I said, it's just really getting people in the habit of participating in all of these elections, because that is, and I keep, driving that point, that's the only way that we are going to see a statewide victory. And I'm really hoping, right now, even as we're looking at this Senate race, Ted Cruz is, basically tied with Colin Allred, based on polling. But the difference maker in that race is getting our Democratic, folks, friends, and family to actually come out in November and be excited about this opportunity, because they don't have to be in love with their candidate. They're going to come out and vote regardless because they want to maintain, consolidate power as much as possible. And unfortunately, being a Democrat is a little bit harder because us as voters, we want a return on our investment. Like, we're not fueled by hate. We're not fueled by some of the nonsense. And so it's not, we often are not satisfied sometimes with the candidates that we have because we have an expectation. And I just want people to kind of understand, like, really what's at stake and what's important. And yes, we need to hold these folks accountable, but we got to get them.
Absolutely. And like you said, what happens is that, this helps to increase the Democratic vote share overall, even at the federal levels, because a lot of times at these 4-year elections, the lens from the media and even, like regular voters tends to be on those federal seats. But again, our democracy is being whittled and chipped away at the state level. And so how did you find, because I
And
know
Texas is the laboratory. Texas is the laboratory. We're a huge state, and so how we go is how the nation goes on a lot of issues. And even when some of these things happen in these smaller, conservative states, once it becomes a Texas or a Florida issue, it just kind of just blows up. And so we have to do even more work to hold the line here, because if we, go so far on the other end, then that just bodes well, doesn't bode well for us nationally. But what I've kind of realized too, and kind of told people, I think what looks like a show of strength from the Republican Party is actually an act of desperation, because they know that their base is really not expanding. They know that the only way for them to maintain power is really to consolidate power. And so what looks like they're kind of like throwing their weight around is a lot of kind of what they say about, a wounded animal is the most dangerous. And they're doing everything in their power to rile their folks up. And because they know, they only have a few more election cycles where they're going to have this hold. Even in Texas, I just believe that, within a decade, we will see that shift, because they just can't maintain. They don't have the infrastructure really, nationally, but they also just don't have the base. They are not attracting new voters to their base. And we have a real opportunity, but we have to make sure we don't lose this time around, because we could be very well looking at like our last election. And I was telling somebody, like, I don't want to be, like what's going on in Russia, where it's, you're voting just as an act of, symbolism, because it's going to already go a different way. And we don't have that choice anymore. But we really have to be, serious about what's ahead of us, because they're not going to they're not going to concede power, and they're not going to give up their fight. It's only going to get worse, and it's going to get uglier, because they see the walls close.
it's so interesting that you said that, because that is my belief too, that like wounded animals, they become more dangerous, when, the gig is almost up and they recognize it. So in states states like ours, they are pushing so hard these extremist policies because they know they only have a certain amount of time, to be there, to stay there. And I was just wondering, how did you find that your activism around education and the voucher program, how that played into your campaign and what kind of feedback you got from people? Because I see that as also being a very motivating issue for our candidates here. Because as you said, Florida and Texas have already, done a few things around extreme things around education, like with the vouchers, the Don't Say Gay, and these types of things. But a lot of people, it sounds real good because they're being real loud about it, and their base is speaking out and pumping their chest. But it's only after people have to start living with the results of these policies that they start to recognize, oh, they're not so helpful to me. I mean, even DeSantis in Florida, his own book banning and stuff, he had to say, well, we didn't exactly mean for it to be this extreme, or those types of things. So how much of a role do you feel that your educational background, your activism around that, kind of played into the issues?
So yeah, I absolutely think that that played, a major piece in that. Mainly because people are it's just really fresh on their mind. So like our governor, for example, he called 4 special sessions to get vouchers passed and he was unsuccessful, but that was his top priority. And so it took up a lot of, just you think about the space in the space in the media, it was kind of the talk of the town that our, representatives are getting called back once again. This is costing us, so much money as taxpayers. There's other priorities. And so people are very aware of, for the most part of that's what's happening. And also too, because of what's going on in our district now. And people are kind of able to draw that direct connection between the governor, pushing vouchers and him also, being instrumental in this takeover for HISD that is really causing so much, it's really a mess. And there are people leaving the district in droves, children or teachers are leaving, and it's making, it's really just to make vouchers that much more attractive as a as almost a way to lure parents in. And so being able to kind of show people, what has happened to our communities traditionally when we're having school closures, and now that it's expanding and they're targeting principals at these really affluent campuses and schools that are like nationally ranked blue ribbon schools, people are saying, "Oh my goodness, it's coming for me now. This is what this is what you guys have been yelling about." But even I think on other issues, especially around like abortion and reproductive rights, right? Like Kate Cox, 'cause that was in Texas. That was a Texas case that was amplified nationally because that's what an abortion ban does. And people may have all of these like moral like hangups about it, but really the bottom line is that the government is making a choice between you living and dying if you don't, if your pregnancy is not viable, and that's not a decision that the government should be making. And even regarding, and we've had our own book ban, pushed back. Our most conservative, court even ruled and said, hey, this is just not a good law. This is just not a good piece of legislation. And there's just too many, there's too many gray areas, too many, things that don't make sense here. We should probably pull back on this. And so we're seeing kind of in real time how culture war issues don't necessarily equate good policy and good legislation for people. And I think what we as Democrats really need to help our folks understand is that government does have a function, no matter how you feel about, the way things are carried out, that it does have a function, that our tax dollars, are to ensure that the government carries out the functions that it's supposed to do. And this is what the conversations I have with folks in my community who, want to opt out of voting and abstain. And I tell them, first and foremost, that election's still going to happen and the people who are not aligned with your values are absolutely go out. That's number one. Two, you should want a return on your investment. And as much as people would like to say, well, I'm not into politics, I have to push back and say, well, politics is everything that we think about, from our water being clean, even how quickly the fire department can get to your home, is really dictated by who is in a certain seat and who is making those decisions on your behalf. And so, just to the very like core issues of, is my school fully funded? Is this pothole gonna get fixed? If, like I said, if my house goes up in flames right now, will there be somebody to come put that fire out? You have to get people to understand that those decisions are made by people that we elect. And if we are not voting, we're allowing other folks to do that job for us, and we're not getting that return. And so I think we have a strong case to make when we talk about what's happening on the other side. Like, yes, these laws are draconian, they're authoritarian, but they also just don't do anything for us as taxpayers. We're not getting anything done. Even with the some of the votes that my opponent took, like voting for the book ban and voting to ban access to healthcare for transgender kids, I was like, that was just a morally, bankrupt position to take. But also, what improved in your life now that those kids can't get healthcare? It didn't put a grocery store in the food desert in a part of the district. It didn't stop rampant gun violence. It didn't fund our schools. It didn't add a 13th check, for retirees. It doesn't do us any good. Now it may get you riled up, emotionally, or however you feel about it morally, but it doesn't do anything for you as a citizen.
Absolutely. And,
That's excellent. That is an excellent way to put it.
exactly. And I love how you described that. I remember that from the first time you were in here. It's like you may not be into politics, but politics is into you. And this is something that I speak to and I try to let people know when they talk about it. And I get it because a lot of times, from a media standpoint, it's covered like a horse race. And a lot of people don't
Exactly.
understand, they don't know the candidates and certain things. So they don't feel really invested in it because it's not connected. The connection, the personal connection is not made. But,
And people opt
yeah,
out. People, right, and not to say rightfully so, but I get it. I remember somebody was telling me, when all the like negative mailers about me started coming out, and they were like, "Well, politics is a contact sport," and I said, "Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't take it personally. I knew that was going to happen." I said, "But you have to understand, there's a reason when I come to this neighbor Democratic Club meeting that it's the same 20 people at each of these meetings. That we're not expanding to a larger base. That we're not bringing more voters in." I said, because to us, this may feel like a game of whose team is winning. I said, but most regular, normal folks who aren't super dialed in hate all of this. They think it's all nonsense.
exactly. And that's why
And
you hear
we have
that
to remove
both
this
parties.
gamesmanship from it.
Right. That's why you hear them
Yeah,
say, well, both of them are the same kind of thing. And they're absolutely not. Because as I said before, this is not just an election about, Republicans versus Democrats. This is literally, democracy versus autocracy. So it's again why I have a lot of conversations around that issue, about what that looks like. Because I want to tell a brief story. I happened up on a space. It wasn't live, but just the title of it made me curious because we know there are a lot of things going on from a geopolitical standpoint with this, push toward authoritarianism. We know it's global. And there's a lot of things going on in Haiti, like they're on fire down there. And so I saw this space that someone had, and literally I just kind of played back some of the recording, and there was someone in there who was actually saying that dictators are good. Like when Duvalier, when Papa Doc was in there, that people ate, and yeah, you could get in trouble or jailed for saying something negative about the president, but it's good. So we've got people, and this was an American, a Haitian American woman who was literally saying that, authoritarianism is good. It's okay. And it's like, okay, folks, we have lost the plot here. It is not good, and we have to help people have these conversations so that they really, really do understand what's at stake. Like, it's okay that you don't like to talk politics and the horse race of it all, but care and know that it requires your involvement. Like, our democracy is only strengthened and preserved by our engagement in it, and the very least of our engagement is our votes, but it is helpful to be informed about the policies and the things that are going on, because ultimately they do affect your daily life. And I get it. Like, some of these people are just, trying to survive. And you pointed out a great example, because in the same hometown that I was telling you about, there was a county adjacent to mine that, as you said, very particularly, they voted someone in, I think maybe a mayor, and that mayor, who was an extreme MAGA, fired a number of the people in their fire department. So it left the whole community. She fired, maybe she fired the fire chief, and then because of that, a lot of the others left. So essentially, that community was left vulnerable, like, from the very, basic standpoint of things that we feel that we should be protected by and against in our communities. Our tax dollars go to, fire, the police department, and those types of things, and how not paying attention can cause us to lose just basic services, so it absolutely matters, And you talked about the takeover of the Houston school district there, and this push against DEI, and the assault on education. Again, it's a thing that is a, a a major agenda, major part of the Republican agenda, and Project 2025. And here, in Tennessee, they are trying to take over the board. Well, they passed a law. They will taking over the board of the Tennessee State University, which is an HBCU.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's happening, and we can be assured that although something, I feel like sometimes a lot of people in kind of safe blue states and areas feel like, oh, that it won't happen here. You just never know, because the thing of it is that
Yeah.
this this particular, even though Tennessee is considered to be a red state, metropolitan areas like Nashville and Memphis and Knoxville and Chattanooga, they're very diverse communities. And when these people get in power, they seek to diminish, that diversity and the power and the voices. So it absolutely matters, and we need to be paying attention to the extreme agenda that's being pushed by Republicans everywhere. So that is, again, another reason why I encourage people to support people, to look at candidates, outside of their areas and stuff, and do everything that they can to support candidates like you, and others in other places, because we all do better when we all do better, and it matters. It matters so much.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And like again, I think we just have to kind of drive the issue home. But that is not her purpose. We participate in the process even more, and that's why I'm, as much as I want to win, my focused on getting myself elected. That the other part of that is really intentional and being serious about getting people out, getting people to exercise their right, and then also taking that next step, and just getting involved in the process. But it is harder on. We have the hard job of having an ideology that means we want to deliver for our people. And that's a lot harder to do than just going on and riling people up and appealing to the worst, to their worst fear and their worst, personality aspect. Like I said, it's going to be an exciting and rough next couple of months, on the campaign trail. But what I've told my team is, look, we can't rest on our laurels. Scoreboard is obviously back at zero, but we know that we've done it. Know that we can. I'm going to take it as far as we can.
Well, like I said, I am just loving watching your success and doing all that, doing all that we can to support you from afar. Because you guys in Texas, regaining a majority in your state houses, can give places like Tennessee and others, the encouragement and inspiration they need to get to work, and to regain the political power in their state houses as well. So again, there, we have some people who have just kind of come in. I'm so glad. I don't want to take a lot of your time today, and I'm just honored that you took some time out to, come and hang with us for a while and give us an update. But we have some new folks in. I just want to give you an opportunity to tell folks where they can find you, what you need now, how we can help you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. I just want to thank my family, my Advocacy Arena so much because, like I said, your love and prayers about have helped us get this far. We're going to take it even farther. But if you would like to, keep up what's going on with our campaign, I try to utilize social media as much as possible. So all of my social media handles are the same everywhere. It's LA Simmons TX146. I do have a Facebook page, and I'll drop the link here. I would love for you guys to follow me on Facebook as well. And then my website is my full name, LaurenAshleySimmons.com. You can go there to leave a donation. You can go there to sign up to volunteer and sign up for our emails. Now, we do send out some fundraising emails and some updates. So, we try not to, overwhelm people, but we just want people to know what's going on and then support any way that they can. I'm back in the field, so I'm knocking doors. We're making phone calls. We'd love to have some of you, if you can, volunteer at our virtual phone banks. It's a pretty good time. And like I said, if you're willing to make a contribution, I dropped the link for that as well. Made a tweet for that. So, yeah, like I said, your support, your love, your prayers, your time, and your dollar gonna help us, get over the hump. I'm running against a seated incumbent who has a lot, even though this is a Democratic primary, they have a lot of Republican money support coming in from individuals and very right wing PACs. And so, we have to kind of fight against that and push up against that to get our message out. And, every little bit. So, again, LaurenAshleySimmons.com, LA Simmons TX146. And like I said, I'll drop the link from my Facebook page because I would love to have y'all follow as well.
Well, thank you again so very much. And folks, please follow Lauren. Please go to her social media sites. Do all you can to amplify them. Support her if you can make a contribution, a monetary contribution. If not, if you have some time, help join her virtual text banking and get the turnout that she needs for the runoff, and give folks again the date of the runoff and the early voting for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to visiting y'all again soon.
Well, we want to thank you for, again, like I said, the excellent campaign that you have run, your dedication and your commitment. We know it is not easy, but your courage and your tenacity has gotten you to this point where you're at a runoff where, as you said, you're kind of back at zero, but we're going to get you the help and support that you need to pull you over the finish line so that we see you in that state house, because they deserve you. They deserve your type of dedication and commitment and heart. They deserve people, representatives who are there working for them and not for, the agenda of these, corporations that are, contributing to many of the candidates that, are running in this race. So anyone have any questions or for Lauren? Like I said, I don't want to keep her all day because I know she has a lot of work ahead of her, and I just want to extend an opportunity for someone, if they have any questions, to come up and request the mic. If you guys who are here on the stage have a question for Lauren, please raise your hand, or a question or a comment. Please, raise your hand, and we'll take care of that. All right. So, Lauren, again, I like I said, so proud of you, and we are just naming it and claiming it. You're going to win this race. Your work is so vital and so very, very important to. Democracy for, not only Texas, but nationally, because all of these races matter. And, when people are engaging, because when you're out there knocking doors and having conversation, you're also helping to inform and motivate and engage citizens. And when we get citizens, engaged and invested in the process, we can turn the tides and we can make a difference. And I am just over the moon that, like I said, we knew you when you were just a concerned parent, voicing your outrage about what was happening there, to now a candidate in a runoff. To represent the community that you were, fighting for, just as a citizen, there. So we're wishing you so much success. And I do have someone who has come up. So hang on, if you would, just a moment. Let me get them at speaker. So, Kim, thank you for joining us. You have a question or a comment for Lauren?
Real quick. Yes, I do. First of all, Dee, may I please say for you, thank you for the work you're doing. It is making a difference. People are hearing you, and you continue to post those positive, inspiring posts that you do every day, and to encourage people like Lauren. My oldest daughter's name is Lauren, so I happen to love that name. And Lauren, I do wish you all the best of luck, sweetheart, in everything you're doing. You're obviously very energetic and bright, and you have a purpose behind you. I can tell just by listening to you talk. And I wish you all the luck in the world, sweetie. I really do. And Dee, I just wanted to come up and thank you for your posts and how inspiring they are to this little grandma from North Carolina. And just thank you for that. And I'll step down.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And like I said, I know that, Lauren has a lot of people behind her here, and I appreciate that. And that is the work this whole sister and I seek to do every week, is to find Laurens all over the country, to get them. Fired up and ready to go and to do the work. And if you're not running, definitely get people excited about supporting people who are, because it is the most patriotic thing that you can do. And
Yeah.
it is very hard to run in places that are difficult, that have been gerrymandered, and to run against, incumbents. And she has done it, and she has proved that it can be done successfully. So I just want to thank her so very much, and thank all of you, the people, the community here in Advocacy Arena, because you guys inspire me and encourage me and Soul Sister to continue doing what we do. And just hearing that really means a lot, because I know that the work that we're doing is making a difference. And that's what we seek to do every week, is to motivate and inspire people to get civically engaged. And whether that's running for something or just supporting the people that are. And that's why we're here every day. And Lauren is just one example of that, and she is a beautiful, shining example that we're so proud of. So, sister, any words for Lauren?
Nothing other than keep doing what you're doing, because it's obviously working. And so I know that there have been some dark days in your personal life, and just in general with the onslaught of attacks, and just the amount of responsibility and accountability that you're facing. But just know that you have a wealth of people who are standing behind you, who support you and believe in you. And it really takes a certain amount of strength and leadership to do what you're doing. So do not be discouraged. Often you will see darkness before you see the light. And I am so glad that you continue to shine through all of it. What you're doing is major, and we will be there to support you and to applaud your victory, and celebrate when this is a final done deal, because I guarantee you that I don't see how this could go any other way than in your favor. Okay, so thank you so much for just being engaged, and being a person who will stand up against oppression within the state, and who is taking all of this national attention on the chin, and standing strong. We believe in you, and I can't wait to see what you end up doing.
Absolutely. So, Lauren, any last words for the folks in the Advocacy Arena community?
Thank y'all. Extremely, that's the thing to all. Any of you can. I try to thank y'all.
Well, we want to thank you and wish you a wonderful rest of the day and a great week and much success ahead and all of the strength and courage that you need and is required for the work that you're doing. So, again, thanks for taking time out of your day to come and give us updates. We're going to make sure that we amplify all of your social media sites and the calls to action for what is needed to pull you over the finish line because that's what we're here to do. And we are so, again, just so proud of you. So I'm going to go to you. Stick around for as long as you want, Lauren. But like I said, I didn't want to be greedy and take a bunch of your time today. But I'm going to go next to our next speaker, Joseph, and we'll dig into some other topics. And like I said, stay as long as you want because we love having you here. So, Joseph, you're up next.
Hi, Ms. D. Hi, Soul Sister. Hope you're having a good Monday. Wonderful list to Lauren Ashley. Just we need definitely more people like her across the country, and I hope that we'll be to find others like her. It's definitely an inspiring sure. Let's see. Well, first thing I guess I put up in the jumbotron an article that was tweeted out by Will Rawlins, is the Democratic candidate, California's 41st district, which is about a half hour's drive of where I live. That's also the district where our friend Dark Garland lives, and it's one that is very much played this November. But basically, it talks about how the road to taking back the House run California, and it highlighted 9 districts here in California that are going to be very much in play, and that we need to win in order to have any chance of taking back the House. And of course, they mentioned the 40th and the 45th districts, which, of course, as you know, I'm very involved. Sure that we can flip those districts. Also, I read a while ago that President Biden is going to be traveling to Nevada. I believe sometime today he is going to be making appearances in both Reno and Las Vegas tomorrow. I'm glad that he's going to Reno. I know him and the vice president have made multiple visits to Las Vegas recently, but Northern Nevada cannot be neglected. You can't win Nevada on just Clark County. You have to also give attention to Washoe County and Reno. So I'm definitely glad that he's going to be going to Reno, and then after that, he's going to be traveling to Arizona, which of course I'm very happy about. I hope that he will be making appearances with Governor Hobbs. Been touting a lot of her achievements so far in the little bit over a year that she's been in office. She's definitely has a right to toot her horn about that because she has accomplished a lot short amount of time. I would like to see her become a little bit more of a surrogate for the administration, like we've seen Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer become, because I think it's really important in a state like Arizona, which is a state. So we'll see how the president's visit to Arizona plays out. As far as my own travels to the own states, I'm toying with the idea probably to Nevada in late April, beginning of May. I'm deciding whether I want to go either to Reno or Las Vegas. So that remains to be seen. I will be going back to Arizona for work in May. I'll be going to Tucson this time, so hopefully I'll be able to kind of gauge what the temperature is there. I was hoping to have a space later this week, but then I remembered I have an appointment on Thursday evening, so I don't know if I'll be able to do one this week. But I know Carmen is down in the gallery. She co-hosted a space yesterday, and we talked a little bit about amplifying the messages of not just the president and the vice president, but also all of our Democratic candidates, to counteract all the noise that we're hearing from the former guy and and his surrogates, because I think we have a really, really strong message, and our party has a really strong platform to run on this year. And then just the last thing that I will talk before I land my plane is the disgusting remark that the former guy made over the weekend, saying that immigrants are not people. And as son of an immigrant, I take great offense to that. And this should be a wake up call for any immigrant who votes Republican, that MAGA does not consider them to be equal. What I found extremely abhorrent was the fact that there have been critics from both Michelle Steele and Young who love to play the immigrant card when it is politically advantageous for them. And yes, I said that because that's what they do. But they have said nothing to denounce Trump's remarks about that. By contrast, Young Kim has filled up her timeline over the weekend with silly ribbon cuttings and photo op. You know, she can't run from the fact that her boss is anti-immigrant. And I am shortly, I am going to be calling them out on that because it needs to be said. It needs said. So I hope, and this is something too that Carmen and I talked about yesterday, all of the Latino MAGAs, that they better wake up, because they're going to find either themselves or their family members deported if Trump gets back into office, because he's not going to care whether or not they voted for him. He views anybody that's immigrant as less than, and we have to take him at what. So with that, I'm going to land my plane and give others a chance to come up. Thank you both so much for this space, and have a good Monday, everyone.
Well, thank you for those updates, Joseph. And your updates made me think about a couple of things, and it kind of connects to Lauren Ashley's area of passion and focus as well. But she talked about, her incumbent being funded by these basically dark money groups and so forth. So I like to continue to highlight those. And I see my dark money friend, Mud Puppy, down there. And if she has an opportunity to come up, I hope that she's able to. And she's probably highlighted this particular organization on her timeline, because I know she has been doing a lot of work, creating threads and posts and charts of all the players. And, I do it more sporadically. I'm always researching them. But one that I found particularly interesting is that the Foundation for Government Accountability, because emails were, found that showed that the race in Missouri for the Secretary of State, where he was supported by this dark money group called, Foundation for Government Accountability. In fact, they actually wrote an op-ed that he put his name to. And this particular group is they're a 501c3, of course. They are a public policy think tank, but their focus is on, basically on marketing and policy messaging. And it is around, the welfare state, reducing restrictions on teenage workers. And we have seen many states like Arkansas, Florida, I think maybe Kentucky tried to change some bills around those requirements, and blocking the expansion of Medicaid at both the state and federal level. And this organization is also part of the State Policy Network, which is a confederation of conservative state level think tanks that practice what they called the IKEA model of advocacy. They create these prefabricated, it's like a state level ALEC, which is, like the bill mill that they use nationally, but they do it kind of on a state level, and they, provide research and lobbying to support and aid their talking points. But, they're everywhere, and they are funding candidates. We have a scandal here that one of our investigative reporters, Phil Williams, which I think at this point most of you are familiar with, where the voucher bill that was passed here a couple of years ago only passed by one vote. one vote. And it turns out that they were actually trying to buy those votes. They tried to bribe one of the representatives who is a member of the National Guard with a promotion in the Guard for their yes vote. And the candidate who cast or the representative who cast that deciding vote, it turns out that they were actually, their campaign was funded by one of these voucher loving, organ, dark money organizations. And I was reading a story just recently about Arkansas. They have, I don't know, I can't remember how many years now, but they passed their voucher program. And where they stand now is that there was some research, and now the results have come in from how that money has been used, and it's basically going to people who have their kids in private schools. And so now they just get a tax break for their, private school, and it's that money is being taken away from public schools. And so now Arizona finds itself at a deficit. They're in a deficit because of all the money that has been spent to support these voucher programs, and the things that they found that people were spending on these vouchers. It wasn't education. They were buying things, in some cases, cars, and in some cases, just kind of extravagant things, just that had nothing to do with education per se. So this is what I fear will happen here. And if it's allowed to pass in Texas, will certainly happen there, because these organizations, like I said, it's designed to give money, to privatize everything. And in so doing, it's taking public dollars and giving it to people who really already have the money. They just want a tax break, but they're using, public dollars to get their tax break. And it's unfortunate, because it seems that, these are the same people screaming about the welfare state and all of these other things, but they don't mind corporate welfare, or, welfare that supports their agenda and things for them. But I see that we have Carmen up, and I want to give her an opportunity to speak and join the conversation. I got a few other people who have come up. So, Carmen, how are you doing today, my dear?
Hi, Dee. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And hi, Soul Sister, and my beautiful folks here that I join every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when I get a chance. I just loved hearing Lauren, and I am amplifying all the candidates that need some help, either with phone banking, texting. I am shouting it out on my timeline. As you know, Dee, I tried to. I even got Harry Dunn following me back, so I'm excited. I'm supporting him in his campaign. So just a whole bunch of folks. We do have to spread the word any way you can. If it's knocking doors, if it's donating a few dollars here and there, whatever you can do, it makes a difference. We cannot let this orange clown back in the White House. We just can't. The it's I mean, this, I know folks are tired of hearing, oh yes, this is the election of a lifetime. I mean, serious, we do need to take this serious. We cannot let this man back in the White House. I'm sure a lot of folks here are traumatized from when he was in the White House. I would open Twitter and I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? He has the codes, the new codes, and I was like, oh my God, something else is going to happen. So we do need to remind folks of how it was during, this man in office, compared to President Biden and Harris in office, and all the accomplishments. We have to continue to let people know everything they're doing and what more work they need to do for the American people. He speaks not only for the Democratic Party, but for everybody, for all Americans. And I don't understand why we can't support that, you know. And yes, I did co-host a space. Greg asked me yesterday, which was nice. You know, hoping in the near future I will have a space. Basically, I really want to amplify, you know, the message to Latinos. Hopefully, you know, I will have that in the near future. Well, thank you so much, Dee, for letting me speak. I hope, you know, you guys have a wonderful day. I'm still here in Florida, so I have some free time till I go back to work the following Monday. Thank you. I'll go back to listener.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I'm sorry that I didn't get an opportunity to hear your space. But I all of the feedback that I've gotten about it was that you did a very good job. That it was a very good, lively space. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and that is you know, something that I think would be very much. Needed and beneficial for you to try to have conversations and speak. I know that you've talked about it in the past, having personal conversations with people in the Latin community. So I applaud you and encourage you to continue to do that and want to support your efforts in that area. But you were speaking, you know, about the danger of, you know, the former guy and his, you know, extreme agenda and how, you know, it puts us all in danger in so many different ways. And something that, you know, I tweeted about earlier last week, but we have a guy here in our area in Fort Campbell who is now being brought up on charges for selling um, information to China. And so, you know, the former guy, I feel like he kind of made mainstream hate and these types of things. I feel like he has also made it like okay and
Normal.
normal to sell our secrets, you know, like so it's kind of crazy. Thanks again, Carmen. I appreciate you. And up next, I think we've got Nurse and then Greg and then Ngazi. And thank you guys for, you know, joining us in the conversation today.
Hi, everybody. I am Nurse Chapel, formerly. Now I have to go by Nurse Pomfrey because I lost that account. But I just want to introduce you to myself to you. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
have
you're
to
kind of
do.
garbly, nurse.
Oh, okay. Is this better? Is this better?
Yeah.
No?
Yes, it's
Okay.
better.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I just wanted to let people know that I have no filter. Things just come out of my mouth, right or wrong. But I have a good heart and I love you all. And just wanted to add to Dee some of the things that I've seen on Reddit and other forums. One of the questions that one of the homeschoolers was asking was, I know you can write off tickets to Disneyland, plane tickets and actual entry into Disneyland and call it educational. And so they really support each other. It's just really amazing to them. And my whole family's really right wing. I mean, my brother-in-law had a Make America Great Again hat, and I stole it and buried it in their garbage. They were big on pushing the vouchers in our state. And I just told them, you know, I pay taxes and I don't have 2.3 kids to put through schools, but I pay taxes. And we just kind of rubbed each other raw on that one. But oh, and another thing, I posted that you know, you can call your senators and representatives every day with a different subject that's important to you. And one thing that I just can't get any traction on, I mean, can't even get any retweets, is that we need to possibly ask for UN election oversight, because it's going to be ugly, guys. I don't think Trump mentally is going to be able to make it to November. So who knows who they're going to put in there. I think they're going to have to pull somebody in maybe even before the convention. And so again, I keep, like, once a week I call my rep and, you know, say something about how ugly
this election's going to be, and we need to have it make it so clear, not just numbers of votes, but altogether that we need somebody else watching it so that that the 2020 thing doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm so stuttering. I had a seizure over the weekend, so I'm kind of out of it. But
Okay. Well,
anyway,
sending you
sorry, guys.
that's okay. Sending you lots of good vibes to recover
Thank
quickly, and I appreciate you joining in on that. Yeah. So the trip to Disney sounds right in line with some of the other things that I
So
saw.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is very sad that they're willing to destroy public, schools and things just so they can get these extra bennies, for, students and people who really all are already able to afford private school, better educational systems for their children. But thanks again. I appreciate you joining the conversation. So,
And a couple more things. I used to volunteer at my local school, and I can't anymore because I'm not reliable. But that's something that was so rewarding for me. The school nearest me is one of the poorest schools. Has the demographic is that people are very poor, and it was just great to interact with those kids, to tutor, to help those kids read, my limited, extremely limited Russian to help support them, was just meant so much. And I also wanted to say that let's expand our circles of light. Let's take Ashley and Lauren, I'm sorry, and everyone else, and just expand our circle of light every day to include more and more people and make them strong. So I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm
yeah,
pretty
well,
spacey today.
absolutely. All right.
I
Well,
love you
thank you
guys.
so much. I appreciate. Well, you too.
Mhm.
Sending you lots of love and good vibes. And anywhere that we can volunteer, it is important to do what we can. So, up next we've got Greg and then Ngazi.
Hey D, hey soul sister. Yeah, that comment that Donald Trump made about there's gonna be a bloodbath, and he tried to antiquate that to the automotive industry. Well, if he meant that by the automotive industry, he sure as hell didn't make it very clear as to how. So, and you know how he always talks in code. I mean, the rhetoric that he used for January 6th, stand back, stand by, all that stuff. I mean, you can't help but notice that he was definitely talking about bloodbath, meaning if he doesn't get the election, if it's so-called rigged against him and he loses again, that this is going to go nationwide, that he's going to have a bloodbath nationwide. And people see that. That's very dangerous rhetoric to be talking. Very dangerous rhetoric to be pushing, and his base may not be as big as it once was, but they're still pretty big. There are a lot of January 6ers who have not been caught yet. So he's talking to them, and we see that. And I saw that this was just too much of an important thing not to discuss yesterday. And yeah, I was pretty upset about it. I mean, because we all have families that we want to keep safe, and we can't ignore things like this. I mean, they had back alley treaties or back alley meetings. Old Keepers, Proud Boys. Who's to say that they're not planning something now? Okay, and we got to take that very seriously. So the games have to end. We have to take it seriously, and we can't think that another January 6th can't happen. So, we have to be very aware of what they're up to. And my fear is that if people take this too lightly, it's going to be a bloodbath. So, yeah, it's not something you want to just pass by and think that it's not going to, that Trump isn't going to be able to make it happen, because he can.
Yeah, well, I think that
And
he is working on trying to stoke these ideas and put them into the minds of people, and some people will act on these things, and as you said, the stand by and stand back and stand by kind of rhetoric was certainly something that he did, and he's continuing to do it. He's really
Right.
never really stopped doing these things, and so there will be a certain amount of people who are going to be encouraged to act on these things, because at this point it's just kind of a cult, a base that he is appealing to in an emotional way with cultural issues, very dangerous, because he
Yep.
knows like he has a lot of legal issues that he's facing. And so he is doing all he can to upset the election, even if he doesn't win, which, I don't really think. I'm feeling very optimistic. I feel like the Democrats have done and are doing a good job. And I think that he realizes that too, because, I had said earlier, he's actually stealing some of their talking points to use for him, like, basically now saying that, if he doesn't win, it might be our last election. It's kind of like what we've been saying, but it's also a threat. So all these things taken together, we do have to take them serious, and we just have to continue doing what we can to educate folks.
Well,
And
this border. Well, the border bill that was drafted up by the Republicans, and then all of a sudden they shoot it down because they didn't like it, and because they thought that would give Biden a win, which it would basically. But Trump has to realize that it's not about him; it's about the country. It's about what the country needs. And unfortunately, he's been so privileged that he doesn't care about anything but himself. And I've grown tired of that. I've grown tired of the dangerous rhetoric. I've grown tired of the antics he pulls in courtrooms. And some of that came out yesterday. I was furious. I had posted 2 days ago when I found out about what he had said, and I basically said in my tweet that I'm tired of him getting away with everything. And we discussed that in MySpace yesterday. Great people like LMZ, and obviously my co-host Carmen, Joseph, and many others. We got down to the nitty gritty, and I'm at a loss for words on these things, because the more I think about it, the angrier I become. I mean, this guy is dangerous, and we can't afford to just sit back and act like it didn't happen.
yeah, I think we all, for the most part, have known how dangerous he is. And, you talked about the border bill, and Lauren is still here. And what I found interesting is that it seems that the governor there promised that it would be, when he was busing all of these people to the other states, that it was going to come out of the state budget, that it was going to be taken care of. And it turns out that's not true. Do you want to, they didn't get the contributions and things that they like thought that they were. Lauren, do you want to comment on that? I don't know, she may be busy,
Yeah.
but
I,
yeah.
I just wanted to say that they want Greg, your the emotional response that you're feeling is exactly where they want you to be, because anger tends to cloud judgment sometimes. And I'm not saying your judgment is clouded, but I'm saying if they keep you in this wrapped up in this emotional war with yourself, then and it makes it easier for you to blast off and not be able to reach audiences that you might be able to reach, not be able to have
Right.
these conversations that are very necessary in order to build a broader coalition. So I just want you to be mindful of that. And I'm not saying that anger is not necessary. I think we have to channel it into positive action that actually gives us tangibles at the end of the day. And I hope that that's how you see yourself using it moving forward. Having spaces and having discussions very much it. But I think you should realize that we in this community, we take it very seriously. It's the media is not taking it seriously. Well, even if they do start taking it seriously, they have 100 other, Republican Congress people that they put up on the screen, and analysts that say, "Oh, you can't take him seriously when he says these things," and these are the same people that will turn around and say he says what he means. So we already know it's double talk. We already know that it's disingenuous, and I think that those are the points that we keep hammering on, as well as ringing the alarm. That's all I wanted to say.
And
Well, yeah,
thank you for saying that, because the cultural war fight is where they want us, because it's distracting. It's the I mean, we take him at his word. We know that he is dangerous, but they want to keep us in these fights and these conversations so that we're not focusing on laws that are being passed in our various states, and we are not putting our energy into having conversation with people who are not necessarily involved in these fights and these actions, to move them and to get them to actually take actions like voting, and getting us some tangibles, and getting some sane people to represent us, at the state and the federal level. So thank you for saying that, Soul Sister. So up next,
yeah,
go ahead.
I agree with what Soul Sister said. I mean, yeah, I was pretty upset yesterday, but the more that I talked within the space, at times, I almost had to pull myself away. I mean, because I was thinking about this so hard, and yeah, Soul Sister is right. They do want us on that plane where we can't think straight, and it is kind of a challenging thing to not get angry about, because you go back you go back and you start thinking about January 6th, and then you think of the possibilities of what could happen, and you don't want to see that. You don't want to see anybody get hurt or anything, especially innocent people who have nothing to do with this. And Trump is targeting everybody who doesn't agree with him. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian. He's targeting everybody who doesn't agree with him. Man, woman, child, he doesn't care.
Absolutely.
He's just,
Yeah. So we have to know that, like, he is throwing red meat to his base, and we have to continue
yeah.
to focus on, like, what we can do to curb, his ability to be able to do that. And also know that, like, the media wants us talking about, his outrageous, comments and conversations. None of it is new. But like I said, what do we do to make sure that he does not win? And that's where we have to, continue to focus. So thank you so much.
It was a great space yesterday, and I want to thank absolutely everybody who was able to show up. I know others were busy, probably busy, and some that I invited to the space were in other spaces. So yeah, I was a little upset about that for a while, but when we started getting down to the nitty gritty, I put all that bull aside, and and got down to business, and we had a great discussion in there. And I want to thank everybody who showed up yesterday: LMZ, Carmen, Joseph, Sharon, and everybody. Thank you guys. It was a successful space because of you yesterday.
Well, we appreciate it, and sometimes it is necessary to vent and to get things off our chest. So I'm glad you had an opportunity to do that. But I know you understand what is at stake, and where our focus, has to be, and the work that we have to do ahead of us. So thank you for that. So up next, we've got Ngazi, and then Mud Puppy.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, we can. So glad that
Wonderful.
you could come up and join us in the conversation today.
Yeah, my school went on a unplanned lockdown, so extra time today. So thank you for letting me in the space. I did want to speak to the education piece. Update from the great state of Georgia. We were able to pass the state voucher program here in the House. They still have to pass through our Senate and get it to the governor, but the governor has thrown his full support behind it. And so we are fighting the same battle that all the other southern states are fighting. I mean, I definitely feel confident that these are definitely those bills that are written by those dark money think tanks that are just handed off to a state legislature to just plug and play whatever information they need to run it through regardless of what the state is or what the situation is at those states. Unfortunately for us, we don't have like a voucher would cripple us. It would completely destroy our public system. There's just not enough private schools in the state to make the voucher valuable to enough people in the state. Our rural schools, one of the reasons why it's been so much pushback in our state is because our rural counties know that that would just bankrupt them, and they're already struggling to educate their. But like I said, the Brian Kemp has done a very good job of making his MAGA status of being one of the most ultra conservative governors in the country while distancing himself enough from Donald Trump that he doesn't get the stench of Trump on him. So people still really like him because he's given tax breaks, and he did like a very, very long gas tax suspension. So it made our gas really cheap for a while. He gimmicks the system really well. Like he gave teachers a bonus recently. And so all of these people were like, oh, Brian Kemp is fine with me. And I had to remind a lot of my friends who were like, yeah, Brian Kemp gave you a tax cut or a bonus, but he could have just raised your pay. And notice how he didn't give us the money to feed our kids in the summertime. So guess who that's going to fall back on? So you know he does a very good job of like playing to the camera while behind the scenes undercutting all of the good work we've done. So many of our kids have been kicked off of Medicaid. I'm currently dealing with that now, where I've got kids who don't have services because their insurance is wonky. So it's just very frustrating as a Georgian to see what's happening behind the scenes while people are clapping for this man who's killing us slowly but surely. And of course, our hospital closures. But I did want to
Mm-hmm.
speak to the concern about the bloodbath comp from yesterday or 2 days ago. I mean, it's concerning because we know this is who 45 is. Okay, this is how he talks. We all know this. Media is still playing this game of we don't really know what he means. Yes, we do. Y'all have kept telling us to not take him literally, take him figuratively for too long. That window of benefit of the doubt has passed. Okay, that man says it's going to be a bloodbath here. That's what he's trying to signal to his. But at the same time, I kind of look at what's actually happened, and I just have a lot of doubt that he has the pull that he thinks he does to really get people to take up arms. Because when he got arrested, or not, I'm not sorry, not arrested. When the indictments came down, he tried that, and nobody showed up at the courthouse. There was like a one person who went on that spree. I think it was on Ohio with the FBI, and that did not end well. They're still prosecuting Jan 6 cases, still arresting, still moving them through the court system. And while a lot of them are so defiant in the face of their charges because they think they'll get a pardon, a lot of these people are being turned in by family members, by their own community. And so I just have a lot more faith, I guess, in the American people, maybe than they deserve, that when the chips are down, people know what the deal. Nobody wants to live in a violent hellscape where you can't trust your neighbor and you're afraid that somebody's going to attack or harm you for something as simple as who you voted for. And so I think it goes back to there's a small percentage who are just louder than everybody else. But I think overall, the bulk of us are like, we're not going to play with guns over voting. Like, it'll be upsetting. You all might try to storm again. But even on Capitol Hill, there was security for the state of nobody's taking this lightly, I don't think. I just think that at the same time you want to have security, you also want people to be calm, because when people are emotional, that's how mistakes get, and you don't want to unintentionally trigger something by overreact, but you want to be mindful. So I hear what he's saying, but I'm also kind of like, I have faith in the American people. When it's time, we'll do the right
And
stuff.
yeah, thank you so much for saying that. And yes, I wasn't aware of Georgia actually passing this statewide voucher program, but when you were describing Kemp, it sounded a lot like our governor here, Governor Lee. He is very much in the same vein. He kind of flies under the radar because he's not performative like the Florida and the Texas governors are, but he is doing the very same things and some very extreme things, like you said. He is now fighting. Well, our Democrats, let me say, are fighting to stop him from passing a $1 billion refund program to give to corporations and companies here as some type of tax break, of which his company would benefit. And they're asking, in with press conferences, they being the Democratic representatives here are trying to, get him to show like, how do you benefit? Because these are, he's not being totally transparent in it. And this is what they do while he's, and it will make some people who, feel like, oh, he's doing good things, for businesses or whatever. But at the same time, like you talked about, Kent, denying Medicaid expansion and hospitals closing and not providing or signing on for the program from the government to feed kids during the summer. So you have to help people to understand, like, yeah, you may benefit in this way, but how you might be hurt in another way, or how people in your family and your community may be hurt writ large from all the other things that they're doing. And these are the conversations that we have to continue to have and help people to understand. So thank you so much. And I'm sorry you guys are in lockdown, because yeah, it's another thing. Like he's trying to pass this tax break to people, but there was a bipartisan bill passed or submitted that they wouldn't even allow a hearing on, that would have relieved people of taxes on groceries and stuff. So he doesn't want to do things much like the former guy with his big tax break, which was permanent for the corporations and the billionaires, but was time to expire for regular folks. And this is just kind of the same thing being done on a state level. And I am so glad that there is more national attention being paid to the things that are going on here in Tennessee, because of the sensational and the outrageous thing that happened in our last session. And we need to continue to remind people of what these extremist governors, even though they may not be performative and out there in the news, what they're doing and how they're harming their state and their community. So I thank you so much for coming up and adding that to the conversation today. It is so important. And up next, we've got Mud Puppy, my dark money sleuth friend, and then Geechee.
Hello, Miss D and Miss Soul Sister, and hope everybody's having a fantastic Monday afternoon. I just got started working, so I'm running a little late today. But anyway, I just wanted to come up because I have been researching most of the U.S. far right Christian nationalist slash Catholic nationalists. I don't know if they're, the same thing or not. I'm not into religion. But yeah, I've been trying to just research them and kind of tie them back to the Russians. And actually, it's funny you guys were talking about the homeschooling topic, as well as, the charter schools, because that's actually something that the Americans on the far right have been working with the Russians on for quite some time. So yeah, I've just been trying to make some network maps to highlight some of these relationships and for people to really understand what's going on in the background. And I've just kind of been ignoring Trump. I guess I'm like not as worried about Trump as I am like, taking Russia down. And we really need to support Ukraine, because Russia is one of the biggest threats to this country. I mean, Leonard Leo is definitely a threat. Don't get me wrong, but he does have connections with these European far right actors who are in cahoots with the Russians. I just found a video last night of the middleman who his name is Alexei Komov. He's kind of the middleman between the U.S. far right and the Russians. But he created or produced a video that I found on YouTube last night, and he was interviewing a bunch of people who have groups involved in Project 2025 and are also members of the Council for National Policy. So this is much deeper, and I really want people to understand that Trump is really just a puppet. He is a useful idiot for a much bigger issue. Um,
And
so,
that is, thank you so much for saying that. And you'll have to send me the link to that video, because that's why, like, when the outrageous, sensational news stories hit the headlines, yes, we'll talk about them, but I like to, you know me, connect the dots. And one of the dots is to connect it to historical events, but also to connect it to the dark money folks, and that agenda, because that's the nuance and the context of all of this, so that we really understand, like, as you said, he is just a puppet for a much larger global agenda, at which our Speaker Emeritus said all roads lead to Russia. And it is absolutely vital that we get the support to Ukraine that they need. And I love what the administration is doing, how they are working in every way possible, even with all the obstructionism, to provide the things that are needed in these hotspot areas, because Ukraine's democracy will definitely have a direct impact on our democracy, and on, democracy in Europe. And, like, it is vital. And the similarities, I'll keep saying this, I know I sound like a broken record, but the similarities of what's going on right now in our country and around the world are so similar to the atmosphere and the environment that occurred in the 1930s, before World War II. And Putin knows this. They clearly do. And so they are trying to move the players and the people, so it will basically put us into that type of situation to destabilize democracies across the globe. But I
yes.
didn't want to interrupt, but continue.
Oh no, I mean you're absolutely right. I think that's the end goal. They're focused on being anti-LGBTQIA plus, anti-abortion. They want, homeschooling and charter schools. Like, it very much aligns with what's going on, in this country. With what Russia has been working on. And yeah, it's just very I to be honest, I don't even watch the news anymore, because all they talk about is Trump. And I know, like, just from doing my own research, hopefully using, great sourcing. But I'm the only one checking my work. So, if you see any issues, let me know. But, it's just I am really tired of the media just constantly talking about Trump. And, while we have like a 5 alarm fire, internationally. So I would just suggest for everybody to not focus as much on Trump, because again, he is a useful idiot and a puppet for, Russia, and he takes away the attention that we should be paying to what's going on internationally. And it's just very important to understand that with the rise of fascism and Christo-fascism and this Christian nationalist BS that's going on. So that's what I've been doing. I'm like, I get better information from doing my own research than I do the news. So there's no point in me even watching it anymore. And to be honest, I just block whatever Trump says out, because, again, I know that he's just a useful idiot. But yeah,
Um, and
so
I am with you very much on that. And I want to remind people of the great interview that I did with Mud Puppy. We're going to be doing a series on dark money, because she's absolutely right. And I do watch the news so that I can be able to inform and have an understanding of what is going on in the news, because I know, that other people are watching it, but again, watching it from the aspect of trying to actually help people to understand the context of a lot of the stories and things that are, being played out, and the ultimate stakes of these things, and who's kind of driving some of it, and just putting context behind it, and not just the sensationalism of it all. So I thank you for all the work that you are doing around this and that you continue to do. And so, we'll have to get together to plan our next conversation, but you and I, we definitely keep digging into those dark money players. So thank you for your commitment to that and what you're doing, because it is very useful, and it's very important for people to understand. So thanks, and I'm glad that, I hope you're having a good work day. I'm glad that you took a few moments out of your work day to come in and share with us. And I did put our interview that we had up in the Jumbotron, and I would encourage you guys to take a listen to it, and we will be having more. So thanks again. I appreciate you. And up next, we've got Kichi, who has taken a little time out of his workday too. Thank you guys so much. I know it's difficult oftentimes for you guys to speak during this period, but I'm glad that, when you are able to, that you do. So glad to have you here, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Glad to see everybody in the room. Glad to see that you and Soul Sister are, of course, putting on another great space. I actually wanted to talk about something that Soul Sister posted in the Jumbotron that I think is really important, and then also about the swing states in this election and the major Senate race in this election. She posted something in there in which a really big account, the Krasenstein brothers, had posted something, and then said that basically Rashida Tlaib's district is unwinnable for anybody else because her supporters really love her in the district, and it's a district that's built for her. Well, then the wonderful person that is primary, Rashida Tlaib, responded back with what the actual demographics of the district are, and of course there was no comment from the Krasenstein brother or any of the other people that were making these outlandish comments. And I think it's really important that we vet information that we're getting, especially when it deals with the Senate races that absolutely matter in this cycle, and also the states that are the swing states. And I'm actually going to start with the states that are the Senate states that are really important. As you know, we have a 1-seat or 2-seat majority basically in the Senate right now, 51-49 Senate. Unfortunately, it's not as big as it should have been. It should have been 54 pickup. We should have a senator right now in Wisconsin. We should have one in North Carolina. And we shouldn't have lost that Florida seat a while back. But I could also talk about Sarah Gideon in Maine, so on and so forth. But we only have 51 seats. And in order for us to keep the Senate, we need to, of course, win the presidential election. And we need to at least have 50 seats in order to keep that, because the vice president can be the tiebreaker, as she has been a record number of times in this first term. So you're going to see people that say, oh, it's just doom and gloom. There's no way with this map it's doom and gloom. And even though ticket splitting is becoming far less prevalent, we do have a really good chance. Well, we have a really solid chance. Let me say solid in Ohio, and we have a solid chance in Tester and Montana of keeping those seats. So if you see people on here and they're just bemoaning what's happening there, remind them that they won in these states that are really Republican. One state that's probably going to be about a 10-point Trump win. Another one's going to probably be about a 25-point Trump win. But we've had those senators win in presidential election years, despite the fact that those states either voted Republican or were very close in 2012. So it's not the end of the world for these candidates that are running. And the other two races, and these are races that are really important, it's going to tie into the final point I'm going to talk about today, and that is Florida and Texas. Those states are in play. As a couple people have noted earlier about the travels of the VP and the president after the State of the Union. And what they're doing now is traveling to all of the swing states that they are contesting and putting money. And at the beginning, and I'm going to go from west to east in regards to this. If I get the states out of order, please forgive me. I don't have a map in front of me, but I'm just going off memory. I believe it is Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan. Oh, that's not right. It's got Nevada, Arizona, Texas, a state that they just added. Both the vice president and the president will be making stops in Texas before and the swing state roundup. So they are contesting Texas again. And remember, the last time they lost Texas by under 6 points, Hillary lost it by under 9 points. Obama lost it by over 18 points. That state is trending towards Democrat. So if you hear people, oh, we just have no chance in Texas, don't pay attention to those people. And then we have a young lady here that's running in Texas that's doing a wonderful job today too. So there we are. Then Texas, then Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. Those are the swing states this cycle. New Hampshire, Colorado, Virginia, states that have been swing states in the past, are firmly in our column. And Ohio and Iowa, states that were swing states in the past, are no longer swing states. So you're going to see the president and the vice president in these states a lot. So pay attention to the people that are giving out accurate information. I have a list that I made called Election Experts. It's a really good list. It's all people, and it does also cover people that are on the right, though, but they're people that are solid when it comes to election knowledge and not people that are Nate Silver or just alarmists that, oh my God, we can't do this, or oh my God, there's no way we can win if we don't win every state in the Midwest, or there's no way we can win if we lose a state in the Sun Belt. That's not it. We have a bigger map, a more expansive map, a better chance for the Biden Harris ticket to win. And then my final point is going to be on partisanship, negative partisanship. What's going to drive out the election? People are like, oh, I can't stand it. It's everything is so partisan. Well, when we had elections that weren't as partisan and people weren't in their camps and the parties weren't as clearly defined, we had what 1980 and we had what 1984 was, and we had what 1996 was. We had really low turnout elections, and the Republicans benefited from having, well, we won in 96, but in 1980, 1984, 1972, they won because there was tremendously low turnout. And with tremendously low turnout, their hyperpartisans showed up because they've been hyperpartisan for far before what the media is telling. So, again, in closing, pay attention to people that are telling you the truth. Don't listen to people that are saying demographic information that is wrong or polling information that is wrong or the status of these races is wrong. And if you have a question, reach out. Reach out to people that you trust that are in this collective in their DM. My DMs are open. I'll always answer questions if you have a question to the best of my ability. And if I don't know the answer, I will always tell you I don't know. And I can try to find out for you. But if I can't, I can tell you I don't know. And hopefully together, maybe you and I can try to find the answer to those. That's all I have for today. My kind of horse. I got to watch a lot of basketball this weekend, and I loved it. I love the NCAA tournament. I'm really excited about this women's tournament in South Carolina. So go Lady Gamecocks. And again, thank you, Soul Sister and Dee, for having a wonderful space.
Well,
Where did you say you posted that list?
Um,
Just so people can reference
You're talking
it?
about the swing
Or
states.
yes.
I will post the article that it's in. It's an NBC News article that states that all the states that they're going to visit, the swing states are going to visit, why they're not going to Colorado, why they're not going to Virginia, because they don't think those are swing states. They think they're firmly in their column. But it does include Texas and Florida, and of course you're in Michigan, so there's no surprise that Michigan is one
Exactly.
of those states. But it's also that district as that's what it really irked me. I saw the conversation, didn't think anything of it. And then when I looked at it again, because you posted it in there, I'm like, oh my God, this guy is saying that this district is like unwinnable for anybody but Rashida Tlaib.
Yeah.
What drugs are you?
Yeah. It would be unwinnable if you didn't have a strong candidate, which had not arrived until Race Kennebrew threw his hat in the ring and registered. So we're just happy to see that. We're very excited
I'm
here.
glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that because she's a hot mess.
Yeah.
absolutely. And thank you, Geechee, for your insight and for, the work that you do. It is so invaluable, especially during this time and guiding us toward, because this is, your area of expertise, and for you, making clear, like, there's information and resources out there. They're not even not necessarily just democratic, but just guiding us to good, solid information sources. It is so important that we have this, and that we, use it, rely on it, and amplify it. So again, thank you so very much. I can't tell you how much we love and appreciate what you do, and that you are, such a vital part of this community. Thank you.
Hey, Dee,
And
can I ask Geechee a quick question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
sure.
Hey, Geechee, can you DM me that list you were saying, the folks that, follow the polls or something like that you were saying?
Oh
Can
yeah,
you?
I'll put it in
Yeah.
the jumbotron too.
Oh, okay. Thank you so
No
much.
problem.
All right. So we have a few other speakers, new speakers up. We're going to start to wind down. That would be Green and then just Maggie. So if you wanted to join in the conversation, add some information or comments, now would be the time. We'll be wrapping up here shortly. So up next, we've got Green.
Thank you, Dee and Soul Sister, for hosting this. It's always so enlightening and motivating to listen. I appreciate it. In listening today, I wanted to share some sources that I have found really valuable the last couple days. One is if you're interested in Project 2025, which can be an overwhelming subject to speak about to try to help people understand it. Heather Cox Richardson, in her March 17th, Letters to an American or Letters from an American, she really boils it down. It's 11 minutes long and it's really, really good. I can't.
Oh, I'm so glad. I haven't seen that. I love her because she is such a great historian, and I talk about her a lot. So continue.
Oh, perfect, perfect. And I wanted to say too, I can't post any because I have a ghost ban, so I have to stay inactive to try to get it lifted. So if anybody wants me to send them a link, just please DM me. I'm happy to do that.
Hey, Green, can you send that to me, please?
I will for sure. And then Mud Puppy, I am like so deep into Leonard Leo, and I saw a space you did a couple weeks ago, and I think it was a Greg O'Lear podcast that you played, and then I went and I researched and I listened to all of his episodes that featured Leonard Leo, and I was like in a total Leonard Leo hate fest. But your particular area of interest with white Christian nationalism, I'm not sure if you read in the last week or so about the Society for American Civic Renewal. These people are scary AF. And go right hand with Project 2025. And just a side note, just really quickly, Project 2025 is not about Trump. It's about institutionalizing the Trump MAGA policy. And I think that the way we need to the way I talk about it is that it's not Trump focused. It's policy focused. It doesn't matter. It's up and down the ticket. It's all Republicans are going to be expected to follow this.
Yes, and we do talk about it a lot, just
Perfect.
not today. And we understand here in this community that it wasn't made for him. Actually, it is meant. It's just a blueprint to hand to any Republican, and that they have an academy, a presidential training academy to build the loyalists that they need to carry it out. So.
Perfect. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be preaching to the choir. And then Geechee, you were talking about negative campaigning. I can't remember the specific term of it, but hyperpartisan campaigning, I believe. Correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So that sounds like really negative, but if anybody wants to like learn more about it, I think a really great podcast is Politics Girl, and she has an episode "Hit 'Em Where It Hurts" with Rachel Bittkoffer, who really goes deep and explains what it is. And it's quite exciting to see. And the Biden campaign, Democrats have really adopted this throughout this cycle. So thank.
The ad they just put out today about the bloodbath with Charlottesville and all that is a great example of negative
Perfect.
partisanship. Like the reason why you vote for Democrats is that you hate Republicans and the Republicans are a threat to you more than like, oh, vote for us because we got you student tax cut. It's vote for the other party because they're scary and they will hurt you, which is what they do also to us. That we're going, we eat babies and whatever else they say about
Right.
us.
Well, thank you all for your time, and I really appreciate the opportunity and really the opportunity to listen and learn so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and joining the conversation today. So much, appreciate, and we love sharing resources and information here. And yes, today was just not one of the days where we focused a lot on Project 2025, but we've been talking about it here in our community since July of last year. And, we have a few spaces that were just dedicated solely to that, but it is important. And I'm glad that, you mentioned it and talked about it in the way that you did so that people, yeah, I don't think that people can have too much understanding of it and its importance because it is very, very significant. and I will go so far as to say, which, people who are here all the time, they understand that, like, this is not a new thing. It is just a continuation of something that they have been working on. Like, of course, they will tell you it's based on their Reagan's leadership for mandate. But because I do research and read and understand that it goes back even further than that, because in the 1930s, 1937, they had a conservative manifesto, and this is just the same iteration of that. And, Mud Puppy, has done a lot of work around Leonard Leo, and I have done a lot around the Koch brothers, because the libertarian movement is very much their ideology is this manifesto. This project is very much the libertarian ideology, and it goes way back to the Birch Society, and this is why I say the parallels of the time that we're living in, because that conservative manifesto came about after World War II, and there was an outpouring globally of liberal consciousness. And people understood, and we'd also gone through a Great Depression, and it was their pushback against the Green New Deal. And so now you have, Bidenomics and, advancement and equity programs making progress. And it's the same thing. It's just dusted off and, tweaked for the time that we're in, but it's not new. It's been a long fight. So thank you so much. And I love that people are starting to have a depth of understanding around it. And this is what we need. So I'm so glad that you came and joined us in the conversation today. And up next, we have 2K, and I'm so glad that you came up today.
Hi, I think I came back in this space and somehow I was listed as speaker, but I'm really just listening. So I just wanted to say hello to you and Soul Sister and everyone here. I've heard so many good things that I'm taking to heart and I'm going to follow up on. And one thing that I want to uplift in particular, I think it was Nurse said so. Hi, I see hand waving. I'm so happy to be with you all. You have no idea. I get dispirited, but I need to stay positive and energized, and this does that for me. But I think Nurse said something about trying to get United Nations oversight for the elections, and I thought, well now, because I put nothing past people. So that is something that I'm interested in. I'm going to follow that thought, and with that, I will go ahead and say bye. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yes, I had sent you an invite. So if you left and came back, it probably just gave you that opportunity. And I do know there's been some technical wonkiness with the space today. And I know that as we continue making our good trouble and trying to hold space here every week, that there are active measures against us and trying to, to stop this work from being done. So I've been watching a lot of weird stuff happening to the space. And I don't know if you guys noticed it, but there was a period that I got kicked out, so we just have to be committed and tenacious and courageous in our work to save our democracy. We will not be deterred. So I thank you all for coming every week and joining us in these efforts and supporting us, and for the work individually that each of you are doing in your own circles of influence. So thanks again. I appreciate it. So I don't think we have any more speakers. I'm going to start to close us out, and I'm going to give my fabulous co-host an opportunity for some closing thoughts and words.
Thank you so much, Dee. I would just have to say that it speaks to your professionalism that even I didn't realize that you had been kicked out. That's how seamless the space has continued on today. So, congratulations. I applaud you once again for your greatness. Um, One thing I want to say is, there is such a desperation in the Republican Party in general, and specifically to the former president in this going into this next election. And that is why we are seeing the crazier and crazier rhetoric. That's why we're seeing the hide the hand that throws the rock type of narrative playing out all around us. That is why you're seeing international leaders who are definitely authoritarian and fascist making comments in regards to our democracy. So the former president wants us to believe that he's the only thing standing in the way of fascism and authoritarianism, while he's encouraging and cheerleading the same things, the same leaders, the same type of government, and that he wants it to be emulated through his presidency and for himself. So how are we to then turn around and believe that he doesn't mean what he says when he absolutely does? Uh, we know that. And we just have to remember that in order to combat this, we have to keep fighting truth, fighting for the truth to be at the forefront in every conversation. And we have to also remember that not everyone that we're in a conversation with is going to come to us with the same amount of knowledge, or either we might not have the same amount of knowledge as those who we are in a conversation with. So we have to remember to be a little open-minded and willing to learn and listen. But we have to also understand what the facts are. So when we're sharing resources in here, that's one of the best things that we can do to combat the misinformation and disinformation, and kind of check the emotional responses to things. I get very emotional too. I get very angry too. And it's a human thing. Nobody can deny it. Nobody can pretend like they don't go through that range. But at the end of the day, and by the end of the conversation, I hope what we've come up with are solutions in order to combat some of what we have been so angry and emotional in regards to. I think uplifting and highlighting leadership like Lauren Ashley in Texas, Royce Kennebrewer in Michigan, and many others who are definitely leading a charge to try to fulfill a need that they're seeing within their state and within their communities. We have to highlight them, we have to support them, and we have to really get people motivated to get out and vote, because it's not just about the Biden Harris administration. We have to make sure that they're supplied with the type of representation that will absolutely help push forward the administration's legislative policies that benefit all of America. And it's the first thing, of course, is because we're trying to defend democracy here in this country. We're trying to maintain fair and true elections. We're also trying to make sure that we keep building upon giving equity to those who have been underrepresented in this country, to make sure that we're giving our children and tomorrow's future a fair chance and a fair fight in leadership. Because if the education is subpar, then we're not producing our best. And if we're not producing our best, then we're not going to be able to maintain ourselves in this standing as being a world power. So it goes deeper than maybe what we first initially look at things. And I want us to just keep that in mind as we move forward and move through this election season. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be so many things that come at us and continue to come at us that are upsetting, that are completely false, that are dangerous, and that definitely threaten our freedoms and democracies. And we have to turn to communities like this, where we have built trust in factual information, and a community that will support to promote that type of knowledge and information, not just amongst ourselves, but so that we can share with many others who we come in contact with, and who we have conversations with. And that's the beauty and the magic of this space. I go in a lot of spaces. I Unfortunately, I was very busy this week, and I didn't really get into any spaces. I haven't really been in spaces since last week. But it is important that we do go and hear and we do go and participate. But this space has always been special to me, not because I get to sit here as a co-chair. It is because of who is the host of this space. It's Miss D and her influence and her dedication to making sure that we stay on track and stay engaged and stay involved. So I want to thank each and every one of you who are here today, whether you're a listener or whether you were able to participate, and those who might listen on later. It's important. You're important, and it's just it's something that we have to continue to do, and it's something that we have to continue to do even after elections are won, so that we continue to hold our legislators accountable and make sure that the work for the people is being done. And so I just want to thank you all so much.
Well, thank you. And like I said, I couldn't be more honored to have you as my fabulous co host. You bring so much to the community and to our conversations. And as you said, that even after the elections, that's the goal. For me, this weekly space is about increasing civic engagement. And I don't just mean around election times, because it is important that we are engaged actively on a regular basis in our political system. You know, whether you enjoy politics or not, but understanding how it affects your lives. And so it is my thinking and my thought process that we serve to inform people, and through that informing, that hopefully we inspire with examples like Lauren Ashley, who was here today, and others in the community who contribute in different ways. Like, we can't all do everything. We all have certain gifts and areas of interest, but together we can make a big difference. And it's not something that we come together around every 4 years or election time, but it is important for us to be actively engaged in our democracy as citizens, because it's only as strong as we are engaged. And I feel like our engagement is most effective when we are informed. So I appreciate all the people who come in, because it's a collaborative community effort. Like, I don't know everything. Soul Sister doesn't know everything. But, with the help of people like you who come in, support us, and provide your area of expertise and your inspiration and your understanding about certain things, that we are all made smarter and stronger as citizens. And I just want to thank you all for continuing to support that initiative, and for helping us build and sustaining the work of this, community. You're all so very important, not just those who come up and speak and contribute verbally, but those who come in and just sit and listen. Like, listening is so important, because I know that you're taking in things that you often are able to take back to your other communities in your real life, and provide information and insight to the people in your personal circle of influence, and on your social media, and through your social media activity. It all matters, and it matters so much right now, because, as I said in the beginning, and I'll keep saying it, this is not a normal election. And I know that people talk about, I'll say this is the most important election of our lives, and I'll keep saying it, because each one becomes more important, because people kind of don't, take it serious. They participate, and then it's like they withdraw. And we need constant participation, because it wouldn't be so dire. But truly now we are, like, this is it, folks. It is not, a race against a Republican and a Democrat. This is a race. This is an election that will determine whether or not we're able to have any future election. This is an election between democracy and autocracy. And so we need, it no time like before, we need to work to build coalitions. And some of these will be unusual coalitions, uncomfortable coalitions, but we need them because it's going to take all of us who understand what's at stake and help those who may not understand what's at stake, help them to get to that understanding and help us all to come together around saving our democracy. This is not about a Democrat winning. This is about democracy winning so that we can go back to those normal, times, if you will, of being able to have policy differences. But this is it, folks. And I just thank you all for understanding that and supporting us and helping to further the mission. So I'm going to read our closing thought, words of encouragement, and I would ask you to take a look at all the information I put in the nest and the jumbotron and grab that as I close us out with this. And I'm hoping that it leaves you with the same kind of inspiration that it instills in me. And sometimes, like, the news can be heavy, it can be depressing. Don't think that sometimes I don't, get down. But reading this post, this quote, which the day that Representative John Lewis posted it, I grabbed hold of it. I made it my pinned tweet because it's evergreen. It is so important. And that is, do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. So never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. And this is a man that we know um, dedicated his entire life to the service of others. And so it has, just so much importance. It holds so much importance because of the example that he lived. I mean, like, he walked his talk. And I hope that you find these words as encouraging and inspiring as I do. And if you ever feel yourself getting a little down and in moments of despair when things are crazy, do what I do and read that quote. Okay, you can come to my page. I will not change it until I feel that our democracy is just like solid, solid, solid. But the thing of it is that it is incumbent upon every generation to do the work of, democracy. Okay, we can never rest on our laurels because it's only as strong as our involvement in it. And that's where we have to be. And because they have really worked so hard at taking away the pillars of that democracy, and education is definitely one of them, we have to fill the gap in that way. And so I hope that we have helped to fill a little bit of that gap for you guys today. And again, I want to thank you all and encourage you all to support Lauren Ashley, follow her, go to her social media sites, contribute if you can monetarily, volunteer to do some text banking. But it is so important that everywhere we find good representation to be in office, to pass policies that will affect positive change in our communities. So thank you all for joining us today. And I want to wish you all a wonderful week ahead and leave you with peace and blessings.